Hello and welcome back here at Feeling Terrific. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'm very happy that I have an interesting guest with me today. Someone I haven't worked closely, but I did get the chance to work under him, and therefore a warm welcome, Christoph Kull.
Hi, Christian. How you doing? Pleasure to be here.
Great. Yeah, I'm doing all right. Thank you. The good thing is, through the camera, usually the nervousness isn't transferable, but yeah, I just mentioned it. So I'm quite nervous. Nevertheless, I'm very excited about our conversation. And as promised, the first question you don't really know, who are you?
Who am I? I think I'm a normal, down-to-earth guy who is a father, a person interested in all sorts of sports, a curious person, driven, impatient, lucky person. Yeah, because I'm healthy and I have the privilege to do to live a good life. I'm happy.
That's great. I think, yeah, happiness is something which, yeah, you can't buy with money, right? So it's great to hear that as well. Healthiness is part of your yeah happiness. You know, it's quite interesting, and when I think about my situation, for example, so I bet you have a much more stressful job, and when I have a look at your track record, which is quite stunning, right? The thing is, I mean, you just mentioned it, right? So you're a father, you have a very stressful job, but nevertheless, you are also a father, right? So how do you make sure that you're not burning out?
So I mean, the first thing I would say is that I don't perceive my job as being more stressful than other jobs. I think people who, at this time in the winter need to work outside on the streets, people who need to teach classes of 30 young students, people in sales roles that carry a quota for one or two accounts. All of these jobs are also stressful. Yeah, it's not stressful, but I wouldn't call mine as a particular stressful job. That's number one. I think it's a perspective. Then obviously everybody needs to find the balance, how you are not burning out, how you are keeping in balance. And for me personally, since you asked about myself, I'm quite disciplined. I was close to saying addicted. I'm very disciplined about working out. It's not crazy, but I get to do my cardio. I get to play my tennis. I do my functional stuff. As a matter of fact, my app told me that I'm now on a 90-week streak. Yeah, so I haven't missed a week without not doing something for my health. Yeah, and then when I take time off, and people will laugh at me because they say, well, you still read emails when you are taking time off. When I take time off, I literally take time off, and I don't think about the business, and I don't think about my job. I, of course, will then, I don't know about of course, but for me it works that maybe 1-2 days into a vacation, I quickly check the most important things that happened. Yeah, if there's something, because that's the more responsibility you have, the less or the more reachability you also need to show. But I'm taking my time off seriously. I have two phones. I have one personal phone. I have one work phone, and sometimes on Saturdays my work phone is sitting on the charging station for the full day, because Saturday is Saturday, right? And then the other thing is, I mean, you need to be able to lean on your leadership team, on your organization. You need to ask proactively for feedback, opinions. If people tell you you look stressed out, you better listen, right? And if you listen, if you show up, and that is one of the things I learned in my career. If they don't put on a masquerade, but really show up 100% yourself, human, down to earth, vulnerable, not just a business person, Christoph, but really the human being, Christoph. show that you have flaws and that you have fears and doubts, you will earn the trust from others, right? And they will support you and they will be with you in the trenches. And that is a very good feeling because, under stress, there are other people with you in the battle. And if there's maybe the need to take some time off or to look at other priorities, there's a team that will also jump in for you, right? So,
yeah.
Few things.
I'm wondering, has it been all the time that you are really being able to differentiate between work and private life? For example, what you just mentioned with the Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Has it always been the case, or was it a journey? How was it?
I think it is, and your first question that I didn't know about was a very good question, yeah, because I think in my career I had to also learn that who I am is not defined by the business title or the role I have. Okay, there were times in my career where this was very important to me, right? That I progress in my role. And when somebody asked me, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm, and I told my job role. That's not how I define myself. Yeah. But you get, you get older, you get more experience, and it's very dangerous if you define yourself, you as an entire person, first and foremost by the role that you have been given the privilege to work as. And you need to give time to, like I said before, to be, a tennis player, to be a skier, to be a student of new things, to be a father, to be, I don't know, somebody who likes to have good food and wine, to be a traveler, to be learning a new language. These are the things you need to give time for all of that. Otherwise, the risk is much higher that you are going into a bad place.
Yeah.
But one thing maybe to add to that, because you were asking the question a bit differently, I thought initially in my career that having a good balance between business and, the life outside of business is that you can be two different people. You can be that business person, Christoph, for 8, 9, 10 hours a day. And then you switch off and you are that private person, Christoph. Yeah. It doesn't work. You're always the same person. And while I will obviously not give up all the secrets and all the private sides of me in a business setting, it's still 100% of my character that I want to give. I want to be genuine. I want to be with all the facets, with all the hopefully not so many flaws and all the strength, be on the business side. And the same thing, the same Christoph happens on the private side. That's the only way I think you can be happy. If you're starting to play two different roles, then, it will not work for you. It costs effort, yeah, to play a role. It's never a good recipe to play a role.
Yeah. Christoph, I would say I have done my due diligence, and empathy, and also what you mentioned, being authentic in the workplace, also in your role, you're showing that, right? Would you say that this is one part of the key for your success? And how would you define success?
Okay, there are two questions. Yeah, so success, and I think I've been quite consistent on answering it that way. Success for me is equal to progress. So if you see around you and for yourself progress, this equals success. So, and progress could of course mean that you're growing the revenue if you are responsible for a sales organization. Progress could mean, and we just had the discussion, that you're hiring more than 50% females into your organization. We were way above 50% last year, which means that we are increasing the ratio of female talent in our organization. That's progress. Progress could mean that we have much fewer customer escalations. Progress could mean that people around you are growing, are being promoted, are taking on more responsibility, are progressing themselves, right? And all of that to me is success. Yeah. Now, your other question is a very different one. You know, one of the ingredients for success, and there are many of that, but one of them is in my eye, 100%, in my view, 100% authenticity, 100%. And authenticity equals predictability. Yeah, people can predict me. You know, there's nothing worse if you have a leader that is unpredictable. If you don't know what to expect, you know, okay, I made my numbers. How will he react? Will he be pissed off because he expected more? Will he be super happy like last year when I made my numbers? So I arrived at 70%. Yeah, but I, you know, did pretty well. I did all the right things. I was unlucky. You know, how will he react? Will he still, you know, beat me up, or will he see that many things we're doing the right way? So, and I think whatever your leadership style is, right? If you're more numbers driven, if you're more looking into the details, if you're more looking at the people and at progress, like I said, you know, that it depends how you would like to run it. I think it's important that you're authentic and predictable, because this is how you lead. Yeah. And then the other thing, in my world, an authentic and also approachable leader is the only leader that can be successful. I think gone are the days of leaders who are not approachable, who think in hierarchies, who are only being accessed via a certain, you know, line management. And I think while we need to play our roles and we need to have a structure in place that allows us to be effective, if you are not able as a leader to be approachable, and change the altitudes where you're flying, from the 30,000 feet to the ground level. And ground level, I don't mean hierarchical, but really also. So, for example, today I had to review a pricing sheet, that will go out to a customer. Even though that's not my day-to-day job, I'm a sponsor for a very important partnership, and I went down to the SKU level to understand the pricing and gave feedback. And if you're not able to do that, I think it's tough to lead and to have that trust to bring people behind you.
Yeah, I really like your perspective on how you define success in terms of progress. I think this also allows a growth mindset, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when I'm constantly thinking about progress, and progress is another word for growth, and I believe if you show this every day, and you also expect that from your direct reports, that will become a muscle that the entire organization is building up.
Yeah. Maybe from a different perspective. So you've been also with a German software company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you're with Adobe. It's American. Do you recognize a differentiation? So how do they function the same? Is there a difference between a German and an American software company, or how would you describe your experience?
Yeah, so I think there's much more in common than there are differences. Especially the companies that you just mentioned, and there are three software companies, SAP, and then Workday and Adobe, right? So in total now, 24 years or so. And I spent considerable time with every of these three companies. And I think all of these companies are very internationally savvy, interculturally savvy. They run businesses across the globe, and therefore need to also give credit to the nuances and the differences in the different markets. Yeah. So, and SAP had an additional focus on the US market, had labs over there, and there was a good portion of American culture at SAP, and now here at Adobe as well. There's a good portion of international culture, and our business is pretty distributed. And I think the leaders of this company understand that there is goodness in every part of the world in the different mentalities. One thing that is different, though, I would say, is that in American business culture, people have a more fail-fast mentality. They're more risk takers. They take and execute also on decisions faster. So I think failing fast and deciding all that, I think in Germany also happens quickly, but the execution, the pace of execution that we see in American companies is higher. Yeah. And then there's one more thing that is quite interesting is in American or Anglo-Saxon culture, I have experienced very much a mentality where it's quick to accept the top-down guidance. Okay. If the boss says so, we're going to march, right? And while marching and executing, there will be, certain workarounds and ways found, right? But first and foremost, there's a quick acceptance. We're not going to debate. The boss said so. We're going to execute, and then we'll find our way around somehow to optimize that. In German culture, there's first a discussion, right? There's a top-down guidance that says, well, what if the process goes this way? And what if we have that exception? So there's a lot of discussion and debate about the top-down guidance. Therefore, the execution doesn't start that quickly. But once the debate is over and all points were discussed, and it was agreed on the top guidance, it's 100% executed, right? The process is 100% executed like a machine, and there's no deviation, no workaround. And that is maybe one of the few differences that I have experienced myself.
Yeah, really, really interesting. Maybe to add on that, would you say when you self-reflect that the few different nuances also had an impact on your leadership style? Maybe leadership style also from a mindset perspective.
Look, I lived also 4 years in the US myself. I worked for American companies. I worked for a German company. I am German. And I think it's a unique privilege that I was able to experience as all these working environments and different countries. So, and that would be my advice to many people out there. Try to experience as many facets and variants of leadership and companies, and try to use that in the situations that will occur, right? So, and the more experiences you have on your inventory, the more you can choose from, depending on certain situations. Depending, in metrics organizations, you oftentimes work with a very diverse and intercultural team, and therefore it's helpful if you know about the differences across different cultures. So to answer your question, yes, I think it helped to have these multifaceted experience track record, and I would encourage everyone in their careers to never stop being curious and being open to learn more about different cultures and about different management styles.
This is a really great shout out. Thank you for that. So in your current role, right? So as VP and MD Central Europe at Adobe, you have a lot of pressure, I assume. Correct me if I'm wrong. However, how do you deal with this, and how do you manage to prioritize in this role?
Mm-hmm. So similar to my comment on a stressful job or not stressful job, I don't see it as pressure. I see it as a privilege that I'm giving the role. And this sounds now very, I don't know, so very, very generous. But to me, it's very similar to, right now the Australian Open are happening, right? One of the big Grand Slam tennis tournaments in the world. If you ask a player if they perceive it as pressure if they walk up on center court, they will say, "Are you crazy? It's a privilege. It's a privilege that I get to play, that I earned the right with all the hard work that I put in here to now move on to center court. Of course, it's going to be tough. It's going to be hot. It's going to be 3-4 hours of a battle that is in front of me. Yeah. And of course, I'm expected to win for my team, for my country. Yeah. And yeah, it's a privilege to compete and to have earned the right and been given the right, the ticket to be here now on center court. And this is how I see it as well. It's incredible that I have the opportunity to lead an organization like Central Europe for Adobe, such a great company. So to me, it's not pressure. Of course, now I want to perform. It's complex, it's challenging, but it's also fun to have these multifaceted tasks at hand. Now, how do I prioritize, you asked? So I learned something from a mentor, and it's very simple. People first. People first, because all we do at the end is people business. In software, we communicate with people. So people first always. One-on-one conversations are key. Very rarely I decide to clean up my agenda from one-on-one conversations, maybe one or two the last weeks when we're in planning mode, or the last weeks of a year or so. And I say, look, we're going to reinstall that immediately after, but I need now to talk to other people. These are customers, and I need to talk to them now in the next two weeks. But other than that, the one-on-one conversations are key. Without people who can thrive, who are happy, who have the right objectives, who know the guidance, who have the right environment where obstacles are removed, we have nothing. Okay? Without people, we have nothing. Because we don't have machines, we don't have, it's people. So the next priority then is make decisions with your team. That removes pressure, right? If you make the decision, not consent, always, but if you make them by involving everyone, different perspectives, also ask the more quiet ones, for the perspectives, you typically arrive at a much better decision than if you just have one or two allies that you sit in a room and try to come up with a decision. And also decide that sometimes, and that also takes pressure away from you, oftentimes, I should only make a very small percentage of the decisions. Decisions should be made by people who are empowered to make decisions. And if they take decisions and are empowered to make decisions within the guardrails, they have also a responsibility to execute on that. Yeah. So if you are to make those 5%, 10% of the important decisions, make them with your team, not by yourself. That removes pressure, and empower people. Give them the guidance, give them the guardrails, remove the obstacles, but then empower them to make the decisions.
Yeah. Empowerment and pressure doesn't exist. It's a privilege. That's also a great one.
Yeah.
What does?
Sorry. I need, because it sounds a bit poetic, yeah. But think about it. I have made a decision to not become a doctor and save lives, which I would also have loved to do. But I have made a decision to go in the software business. So I'm not solving for world hunger. I'm not solving for cancer. I'm trying to make companies and individuals successful by giving them great software. That's it. Okay? So, and within that, I've been given the privilege and the responsibility to lead a large business. And again, it's like walking up on center court. It's not pressure. It's awesome. 2,000 people. 6,000 people watching you, you earned the right to do that. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I can feel the energy through the camera, through the internet. That's indeed a great perspective. Maybe coming to something what I found on your LinkedIn profile, right? So what does a proven track record of leadership in complex, global, and matrix environments mean to you? And what influence does it have on your mindset?
All right. So let's take this apart. Yeah. So complex, global, and matrix environments. Yeah. So for maybe folks listening to this podcast who don't know what a matrix organization is and whether they think it's a movie with Keanu Reeves. So basically it's a design of an organization where you have, of course, reporting lines, but these reporting lines are typically following a functional logic. Yeah. Sometimes a regional and sometimes an industry and sometimes all of the above, right? That means that a person that is running a business has not all people supporting the business or also having responsibility for the same business in their direct hierarchy and reporting line. So that makes it more complex also. It makes it also more complex if you then add to that they are not always the same objectives. Yeah, that you have, for example, product leaders that are only interested to maximize revenue for their product line, while you are interested, or my task is to maximize the success of my region across all products. Yeah, so that makes it complex. And global means we are now talking English. Yeah, I have people of, I think, 14 different nationalities in my organization. And then we have folks who are in different time zones who will provide my organization with training, with the products, with commercial constructs, and so forth, right? So that's basically the world I live in since over 20 years. And I have learned to hopefully be successful in such an environment. Why do I think, or what did I learn? You need to lead without authority. Yeah. I have a few people who are reporting into me, and I have been giving the authority to make decisions and give them objectives. But then there are the majority, 90% of the people where I don't have the authority. And also my people don't have the authority to really tell them what to do. So that means you need to build alliances constantly. You constantly need to be out there and find the common ground and need to define, why are we working together? What's the joint objective? Yeah. Need to agree on them and then hold each other accountable without having, again, the authority. Yeah. So, and that can be very enriching because you work with different functions that are from a different mindset, from a different background. You get different perspectives, different strengths that you can also tap into. And again, to my earlier point, you can constantly progress and grow because you learn something new, and so that's I think what I learned. And then there's one more thing, Christian, that I sometimes, you hear in the corporate world, you hear, oh, it's very political. It's okay. What do you mean by that? So political is a bad thing. Yeah. Political means it's negative. Yeah. I say, yeah, it's super political. Yeah. It's all politics. Is that okay? But what are we doing in the end? I mean, politics is finding the way of the possible. Yeah. Finding a solution. Yeah. And I don't think political is a dirty word. Yeah. Political means you find compromises, you find a common ground, you listen actively, you of course make your points, yeah. Then you try to understand the other side, and then you execute together. So it always has a bad connotation, but I think it's in the end the art of the possible, finding a way to make it happen. What is doable? What is feasible? And I think, doing good politics within a metrics organization is part of every leader's job. And so it's not a dirty thing.
The art of the possible. I think I got goosebumps because, your perspective is hopefully not quite unique, I would say, because from my perspective, it totally makes sense, right? Sometimes we have, perspectives on words that might be negative. Although, as you mentioned, if we think about it, what does it really mean? Totally different, right? So yeah. Indeed, thank you for that. Yeah. Maybe from a different perspective, and maybe to conclude also this leadership perspective per se and the mindset perspective, what are the basic values that guide you?
So that's a good question, and I'm glad that you're asking for values, because values should be universal, non-negotiable, and span across cultures, right? So honesty, loyalty, integrity, treat everyone with respect, everyone the same. Yeah, and I get to that maybe. Discipline, execution, and having fun doing everything that I just said, so, I mean, doing or being everything, because I think without fun, it's it's one of my values, yeah, to have fun, because it gets very boring if you're always sincere and very serious. Yeah, I should be sincere, but not always that serious. So I said, and I was stumbling a bit across treating everyone the same and with respect. That to me is extremely important. Yeah. Because you never know the full story of someone that you don't know very well. And therefore, the first thing for me is treat everyone with respect and the same, regardless whether it's a CEO or, the person who is maybe walking into the restaurant with you and holding the door, right? So it doesn't matter. Treat everyone the same. Now, integrity also means that once you are getting to know people, once you are interacting with people, you will find people on this planet, who are maybe not sharing the same values and are maybe not deserving the same respect as others. Yeah. And this is also integrity that you over time, of course, have different perspectives, on in different situations. So what I mean by that, I don't believe in having no different stakeholders and different trust levels to different people, right? You will always have friends, your very inner circle that you're establishing, yeah. And then you will have circles around that, and then there may be people who are not good for you, right? Who take you down, who share different values, share not the same values. And this is, so I'm not naive to say that everybody is my friend and everybody, should be treated with the same respect. But initially, I think showing integrity and honesty and treating everyone the same initially, I think is extremely important, and it's one of my values. And then I think honesty sometimes takes effort and energy, yeah. And what I also learned is to communicate in a way that you can be honest and to the point, but always fair and human. Yeah. And this, I think, one of the few values I just mentioned. I don't know if you want to dig somewhere a little bit deeper, but I just picked out the topic of honesty, and also that, what I meant by treating everyone the same with initially, regardless of their background.
Yeah. No, we could definitely dig deeper, especially in the honesty part you just mentioned. Unfortunately, we are almost at the end of our time. Yeah, so in this podcast at Feeling Terrific, we have something where the previous guests asked a question for the next one. So I'm curious about your answer to that question.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, what is the new year resolution that you are going to make it happen?
The New Year resolution that I know that I'm going to make happen.
Yes.
All right.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you really need to pick one that you're really going to make happen.
Yeah. So I know that in 2024, I will spend more time with my family and at home. So, And now you can interpret that many things into that. Yeah. But I mean, there's a lot of traveling involved, and even if you're not traveling and if you time off, you maybe travel abroad and you're not at home. But my resolution was I want to spend more time with family at home and enjoy the boring life of being at home with your family. Yeah, but that's one of my New Year's resolution, and I'm very confident that I'm gonna make that happen. It's a good question.
Unfortunately, not from me, but just the best for your New Year's resolution.
Mm-hmm.
What question do you want to ask the next one?
What is the one thing that you learned in 2023 and that you will do differently or learn from in 2024? And that could be in private life or in business life, right? So was there one thing in 2023 where you're not happy about, and where you did have a learning? And how and when will you do better in 2024?
That's indeed a good question. I'm wondering, why did you choose
Could
this
you answer
question?
that to me? I have this question for you also.
For me, that's a good one.
Or you answer that the next time in your next podcast.
Yeah. We will leave it. We will leave it for the next one. But that's indeed a good question that triggers self-reflection for sure. But thank you, Christoph. It was a real pleasure talking to you. Thank you as well for your time. And over to you for the last words.
I have some last words. Hey, look, Christian, I really appreciate it. It was fun. It was very. You gave a lot of room to allow me to answer the questions, and the questions were very specific and triggered some thinking that was outside of the box. So really appreciate it. I joined that. It was a different format of a podcast. Well done. Hopefully we see each other in person someday soon, huh?
Indeed.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to as well, Christoph, and take care.
All right. Thanks.